Well, good evening and welcome to Salinas High School for Friday Night Lights, where we get a sneak peek at the 2018 Salinas Cowboy football team as they finish up spring ball in the iconic stadium we call the Pit. Well, once again, good evening to everybody. We're sure glad to have you with us. I'm Kevin Richardson. I'm your play-by-play voice, and glad to have you here for this special rendition of Cowboy football on the radio, brought to you by Gold Star Buick GMC. And, of course, this year, or tonight, as is obvious by the webcast that we've got going here, we're going to give you some video tonight to go along with the audio. My partner of 12 years, Dave Wade, he'll be your color man. Well, Dave, Salinas Cowboys, a great season last year, 11-3, Monterey Bay League Gavilan Division champs, Central Coast Section Division I champs, played a state playoff game right here in the Pit. If you're Coach Zink and this team, what are you thinking about as you finish up spring ball and get ready to look into this 2018 season?
Well, I think what they're thinking about is a repeat of how much fun they had last year in the CCS championship against a team they lost earlier in the season. And this is where it all starts, the technique, the timing, and get everybody used to everybody and what they can do, what they can't do in spring ball. You know, they don't have pads on, of course. They're just playing without helmets and gear. So get to know your players. Get to know what every one of your tackles and your guards and your linebackers can or cannot do, and then work on it from there when it comes to fall.
Well, and we've got a great evening for everybody. We're going to have 7-on-7s. We're going to have linemen 1-on-1. And as you saw when the Cowboys ran through the tunnel there with the smoke, no pads, no helmets, so we won't have any tackling. Obviously, we're going to crown the fastest Cowboy, and then at the end of the night, we're actually going to have a field goal contest. And, hey, might grab a few tacos along the way as we got the taco truck in the stadium.
Well, now that you tell me, I didn't know that. But now that I'm excited about it.
Well, the Cowboys out onto the field working through warm-ups, and earlier this week we spent some time with the head coach, Steve Zink, and let's go ahead and see what he has to say. So as promised, the head coach of the Salinas Cowboys, Steve Zink, as we get ready for Friday Night Lights right here at the Pit at Salinas High School. And, Coach, I know the fans have a lot of questions. Friday Night Lights, what's that all about?
We really want to kick off the end of spring ball and kind of kick off the football season with something exciting and competitive. Want to get people out to watch their kids and really see how we're coaching them. Just a different venue than we tried last year during the season. I just felt like we didn't really accomplish what we wanted with the Cowboy Roundup. I think that this is a much better venue, and plus there's kids, which always makes it better.
Well, so tonight we're going to have tacos, right? We're going to have, rumor has we're going to have we had some smoke out of the tunnel. Should just be a nice celebration of football.
Yeah, I don't know about you. I've been jonesing for about 6 months now, and I can't wait until seeing some football in the Pit again.
Well, on our broadcast tonight, we're going to talk a lot about last season, 11-3, Monterey Bay League Gavilan Division champs, Division I CCS champ, made that first trip to the state playoffs right here at the Pit. And I know for you, you want to step past last year, but I guess the question for you is, how do you use last year as a stepping stone for this 2018 season?
You know, it's funny, we talk with the kids about it. That was a lot of fun, wasn't it? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, and what did we talk about last year during the season? Well, this is a different year than last year. And we're going to always enjoy that, and those memories will last forever, but this is a different season, and we're all about 2018 now.
Well, in rolling into 2018, I know John Gutierrez, he's back as your offensive coordinator, but you got a few changes in your coaching staff. Maybe you could tell Cowboy Nation who we've got on that coaching staff for this year.
We got Kevin Bonincontry, who was the head coach of Gonzales for, I want to say, 8 years. Excellent receivers guy and just a good all-around person to have on the staff. Brad Mendes had a couple years being a head coach at Alvarez after being our JV head coach for 4 years. Came back across town, and I'm really, really happy to have the both of them on staff.
Well, and do you get a little room from Coach Mendes because you can say, hey, look, you know what it's like to be the head coach?
Yeah, I find that hiring head coaches is always a good idea. They 100% understand about doing what the head coach wants, but at the same time, they have a lot of great experience doing other things, and I'm all about getting better and learning.
Well, so Friday Night Lights tonight, then we'll move on to finals, and school will finish up here at Salinas High School. You've got an interesting offseason. Talk about that. I know there's a break before workouts start. June is camp time, college camps, football camps is what I'm talking about there, and I know you encourage players to do that. So talk about what's in store for the Cowboy football players in the next 6 weeks.
We come back June 11th, and we do our 6 weeks of summer, Monday through Thursday. We're going to go 3 to 5:30 this year. We got a great upgrade to the weight room, so we're going to be able to get in and out in an hour instead of 2. And
Nice.
just going to do what we do in the summer. We're going to get an hour and a half of good workouts and plyos and get an hour of football every day. And then Tuesday night, 7-on-7s. And really, like you're saying, we're encouraging our kids to go to camps and bring that this year, bring something back.
Well, and you talk about bringing something back. What does that mean?
You know, if I'm let's say a quarterback and I'm going to a quarterback camp and there's a drill that you really like, let's bring that drill back to your coach and to your team, and let's see if we can incorporate it into what we do and get better.
I like it. So that kind of gets everybody on board in terms of if you're going to go, make it productive, have fun, but bring something back to the Cowboys.
Yeah, and I think it's a great way to take something that really, I wouldn't say individual, but it is an individual deal going to a camp, and it's making it back about the team. And those are the kind of kids we have. They're great teammates, and we really want to encourage that. Well,
and if things go right tonight, this YouTube broadcast of Friday Night Lights will be posted on the internet for eternity for people to watch. So if you're a parent, a fan, somebody that wants to get involved with Cowboy football, what's right around the corner for that group? How do you get involved? What do you need to do as we get ready to kick this thing off this fall?
Well, our newly appointed director of football operations, she appointed herself, Mrs. Zink, is going to be here tomorrow night selling waters and just old cowboy apparel and jerseys, and then she's also going to have one of the members of the Booster Club here to sign up for our Athletic Booster Club, a great organization that supports every sport here. And honestly, joining the Booster Club, I think, number one, is the best way to support any athletics here.
Well, and then I know a few of our Cowboy fans are going to want to know the Steve Zink Cowboy Football Podcast got a little drop in about a month or so ago. Can they expect to have a little podcast this summer?
I would love to see a couple more coming out this summer. It's so much fun to do, and I just think that it's a great way for parents to really hear about what we're all about.
Well, thanks for your time. Thanks for letting us all come out to spring football, and have a good Friday Night Light celebration of football.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Thank you, Kevin.
That was the head coach, Steve Zink, as we work through warm-ups here, early outs at the Friday Night Lights, the preview of the 2018 season for the Salinas Cowboys. And glad to have you on board. We got Mark Bonus, Lawrence Zink, and Teresa Richardson. They're working the cameras. And, of course, I'm Kevin Richardson, along with Dave Waite. John Gillott, he's our public address announcer tonight, and glad to have you on board. Should be a lot of fun, Dave, to get a little football fix off season.
Well, they got a lot of stuff going to go on tonight. They got races, they got field goal kicking contests, they got one-on-one with a defensive lineman. It's going to be a lot of fun. Should be interesting.
Well, and you know, one of the things that Coach Zink always talks about is he wants to make things all about the players if he can, and this week has been a great week of football for the Cowboys. Almost 100 kids out here at the program, out here enjoying spring football. And, of course, that's combined JV and varsity. And they've had a great week of football. And, of course, the players have got a little towel with a little Cowboy logo on it, and everybody's got their spirit pack, everybody looking good. So we'll see some 7-on-7 to get things going, some one-on-one work in the middle of the field, and then they're going to get into the Intergalactic Bag Challenge, if you will.
Yeah, it's coming. I can't wait for that one. The thing about it, we came to a practice the other night, and what they're really working on is fundamentals and getting everybody keeping their heads and shoulder pads low, even though they don't even have any shoulder pads on, but working on their technique. The running backs working on their technique, the guys in the backfield working on their technique. It's kind of fun to watch.
Yeah, it is and only so much you can do, as you mentioned, without helmets and shoulder pads. But I think the other thing you get is that's probably your best chance to really teach proper form and safe tackling and all those things. I know one of the things we saw earlier this week, they've got a big foam donut that they practice tackling on. Of course, you were all fired up looking at that foam donut, and I told you, I said, you go down there, they'll give you a turn, if you will, but this is really probably when you really build that foundation going into the summer.
You're saying they're going to let me at it, that foam donut?
Oh, you can get all after it if you want, yeah.
That would have been fun. Yeah, it's amazing how enthusiastic the kids are this year. Obviously, they're coming off a very successful season last year, and you can just see it on their faces. They're just having a good time. And, of course, the coaches, like you said, and once they weed out the players that they feel they're going to be their starting lineups and their second teams, in the fall, they really don't have that much time to coach the rest of the team. And I think you're right about spring ball is where you get to coach every individual and look in their faces and look in their eyes and see if they're on the same page.
Well, and you were talking about the coaches. Let's run through it. Of course, second-year head coach for the Salinas Cowboys, Steve Zink. John Gutierrez, he'll be your offensive coordinator. Brad Mendez, Chance Williams, DeAndre Mann, Juan Sandoval, Juan Cuevas, Matt Eagleston, Kevin Benincontri, Richard Zink, Joey Wilrott, and Travis Dozier rounds things out. So a little bit of a change in the offseason, but again, I think with a Steve Zink team, you're going to get a tough, hard-nosed defense. You're definitely going to get offensive line play because between Richard and Steve, they make sure they get guys blocked up.
Yeah, and not only mentioned the other day when we came out, I mean, the coaches are working hard. I mean, they really are. They have obviously sections or sessions set up around the field, and as each time limit, it's like 10 minutes per session, and as each time limit runs out, they go to their next section, be it tackling or blocking or defending the pass, and it's just interesting to see how organized it is with Coach Zink.
It really is, and gets you excited about football season. Of course, a chilly night here in Monterey County, almost like the fall in terms of weather.
Well, this is football weather. If you think about it, just put some pads on and let's get her rocking, but unfortunately we're still in May, and there's obviously a graduation coming up, so there's a lot on the minds of some of these, not these kids on the field, but some of the kids in the high school themselves.
Well, and talking more about Steve Zink, and of course we heard from him there in the pregame interview, but 11-3 last year, his first year at Salinas High School, 36-43 overall. That is his record as a head coach. Played at Santa Clara for a year. They folded the program, went up the University of Idaho, played in the Kibbe Dome for the Vandals, had a great college career, came back, coached locally, went over to San Benito High School, and then North Salinas for 7 years. He was the head coach. He was 25-10 at North Salinas, but did deliver a league title over there for the Vikings. And, a guy that I thought in year one last year showed the maturity of a guy who had been a head coach for 7 years. The things that he did, he kept it real kid-centric. He kept things fun. He kept the offense wide open. And at 11-3, a league title, a Central Coast section title, and your first toe into the water for the state playoffs. Man, that's a lot to measure against as you get into this year.
Well, of course, and I think the big deal about last year, they had a really good start to their preseason football games. Their non-league games were very difficult at Terra Nova and Milpitas. Tough team. Of course, they lost both those games, and they didn't fold up to ship. They didn't come out with their heads down the next weekend, and they got beat up pretty bad by Milpitas. And they said, we know what to work on now, and they got to work on their running game. They got to work on their passing game a little bit, and they came out and ran the table in the Gavilan division.
Well, and you talked about Milpitas, 27-0. They beat the Cowboys here at the pit, and as you said, that was a sound win by Milpitas. And then when it mattered most in that Central Coast section Division I title game up in that beautiful facility in the Bay Area, it was the Cowboys that got the 25-18 win. The interesting part is Milpitas, I'm not sure people realize, they went on to win the state title.
Yes, they did, and they were a good team. That was probably, I'd say, one of the most exciting games we've broadcast because obviously Salinas came into the game being the underdog, having lost earlier in the season, and Milpitas had a lot of talent, and they had to match up with their talent, and they did it for 3 quarters, and we talked about it in that broadcast. We said if Salinas could win this third and fourth quarter, they're going to win this football game, and they did.
Well, want to remind everybody, obviously, if you're tuned in, you've got us via YouTube Live, SHS Cowboy Radio, all one word, SHS Cowboy Radio YouTube. Do the search there. We also put that, we're going to put that address out on Twitter, and the good news is, if things work out right, Dave, by the time we go final, just like our audio broadcast, this thing will be posted on the internet, and people can watch it anytime they want. So the marvel of the World Wide Web.
Oh, my goodness. We get to listen to us all night long. That's unbelievable. But you got to love it. And then, of course, we're listening to it over and over again so we can perfect our broadcast in the fall, right, Kevin?
That's exactly it. Exactly it. So Cowboys getting together right at the center of the field and getting some last-minute instructions there from Coach Zink. And, of course, I always get a kick out of football coaches. They always have the best laid plans. We were going to go at 7 o'clock, and guess what? The team lined up at 6:45. So football coaches, they always have a tendency to get a little bit ahead and kind of go out of order occasionally, because for me it looks like they've got the Intergalactic Bag Challenge about ready to go. And, Dave, I'm going to have you describe it.
Well, I'm not sure what's going to go on, but we got some tackling bags out there. They're kind of rectangular. They're about a foot tall and about 4 feet wide. And I'm not sure if I've ever seen this before, but we're going to try to explain it to you listening at home or on your YouTube.
Well, and remember, we've also got the help of the video, as long as the bandwidth stays with us. And of course, we got our smoke crew in the press box with us. We got Bramers and Weimer here to help us out tonight, and Jim John doing a great job tonight on the public address speakers for the Salinas Cowboys. And, you know, we'll get a shot of it later on in the broadcast, but a nice crowd for what is in essence a practice.
Exactly what it is. And so right now we got 4 guys lined up across the field, 15 yards apart. We got the bag on one side, and we're going to see what happens. I'm not sure what's going to happen here, but it should be fun.
Coach Zink out in the center of the field here, working through things with the Cowboys. Went through that varsity coaching roster, and we'll get you the names of the JV coaches: Chris Boyles, Art Barnes, Victor Sapp, Excalibur Holder, Nate Lawrenson, Chris Bunch, and Tom Heiserman. Down on the freshman level, Dave Halcone. He's the elder statesman of what was the Monterey Bay League Gablin division. We'll talk about that a little bit later on, too, as we've got a new league on our hands here in Monterey County. Chris Cuda, Ish Morales, Joe Pavic, John Brown, Justin Oliveria, Kirk Oliveria, and Wesley Jones. Got some volunteer coaches that help out: Jared Dumke, Andy Zerati, and Matt Halcone.
So it looks like they're going to carry those bags 20 yards and pass them off to their teammates.
That would be your Intergalactic Bag Challenge.
Here we go.
The good news is, if you get into the CCS playoffs and they bring the bags out to have a contest, you're going to have the advantage, right?
Looks to me like the linebackers on the far side of the field are doing the best job here. They're passing that bag. They're throwing it at each other. I like this technique.
Well, we're going to have to get John Bramers on microphone here in a little bit, see if he's checked out the taco truck. I know that he's been down at El Sazon pregame. That's always a given, but got to see if he's tried the taco truck.
Yeah, the linebackers really got this down here. They're throwing that bag at each other instead of handing it off. I like it. And they're going to win easily. We still got some out there. Oh, they had a little mix-up there.
So the Intergalactic Bag Challenge, they like to call it, as we continue to work through things here at the pit at Salinas High School. Again, just kind of a celebration of football, if you will, in terms of just getting ready for this next season and kind of working through things. And Coach Zink felt like he wanted to bring the fans out, and of course practice this week open to everybody. Come on by. And there were 10, 15 parents every night, and that's kind of fun. Come down and watch a little bit of football, get your fix before August rolls around.
Yeah, there was some rough language the last week, but it's not anything that we haven't heard before, and most of the coaches were pretty cool about it. And I think the main focus was technique and just have fun.
Well, and we'll take a look as we put it up on the screen for you there, but that beautiful ring that the Salinas Cowboys got this past year for being the 2017 CCS Division I champs and making their way through into the state playoffs, and that was a great thing for the Salinas Cowboys. And I think one of the big challenges when you look at what the Cowboys did last year with that appearance in the state title game is you really got to hold yourself to the standard this year and say, okay, how can we repeat what we did as you get into what is going to be a new league this year?
Well, not only that, but you got a lot of players that are on this field tonight that remember the feeling when they lost that game by 1 point, and they did not like it. They were used to being a winner, and they had won all year long. And there wasn't any crying. There was a little bit of crying, but mostly upset and kind of mad that they didn't win that game. And I think that carries over to the next year.
Well, and we'll put another slide up here for you as they continue to work those bags back and forth. But Monterey Bay League Gavilan Division, that's gone away, as has the Mission Trail Athletic League. What we've got is one giant league. The Pacific Coast Athletic League starts up in San Lorenzo Valley, works all the way down the coast to Carmel, jets over to King City. From King City, you come all the way up to San Benito, and then over into Gilroy and Christopher, and then back up to San Lorenzo Valley. That's going to be one giant league, Pacific Coast Athletic League. Going to have 4 divisions. Going to have the Gavilan Division, the Mission Division, the Cypress Division, and the Santa Lucia Division. So that will be 4 mega leagues. The number 1 league, that will be the Open League, and of course the Cowboys will be in that Open League. And when we take a look at what that league looks like, Salinas at 11-3 last year, they're in that league. Aptos, the Mariners at 7-4. Christopher 11-2. Now remember, they were a Central Coast section champ down at the Division 4 level. And at 11-2, Everett Alvarez, they kind of got the short straw. They're still in the top league at 3-7. Gilroy at 13-0, they are in, and they were the Division 5 Central Coast section champs. San Benito, the Hay Balers, they're still in at 6-5. Now San Benito, an interesting year coming up for them. They're doing a complete redo of their field over in Hollister, so they will be playing their home games at Rabobank on Thursday nights. So kind of interesting when we're checking Twitter and looking for scores. We're going to have those scores in the bag before we go live on Friday nights. Seaside, they're in at 6-5, and Palma at 7-5. So while it's a major change, this is an equity league redo. It doesn't really affect the powers in the Tri-County athletic area.
So what you're saying is we're not going over to Hollister this year.
We will not be making the trip to Hollister this year. Of course, we're at home this year either way. Now, the good news is when we go over there in 2 years, they're going to have a brand-new facility, field turf, all-weather track, all of those things going on, which will be pretty interesting to see that, because the joke that I have going with them is, are you going to put extra-long field turf, because you know that they like that extra-long grass over there.
Of course they do. It was a lot of fun to watch. Yeah, anyway, like you said, it really doesn't change the powers that be in the Gavilan Division. You still have, you got your Palma team, you got your Salinas High School team, but you bring in this Christopher team, which was 13-0, and so that's going to put a new face on the Gavilan Division. And, of course, Aptos, as we had a great game up in Aptos last year with the Salinas High School Cowboys winning in the 4th quarter. Again, tough football game. So there's 5 or 6 teams that could actually do well in that league.
Yeah, and I just think it's an interesting league when you break it down. Aptos runs the ball well. Christopher and Gilroy, you know, those guys get into the lower divisions in the CCS and come away with a league title. Not only check that, not a league title, because there was only one league champ, obviously, but they come up with a Central Coast section title, and it makes sense to kind of work through that and bump them up a little bit. So it should be really fun to watch those teams, see how they fare. Again, I think Everett Alvarez, they probably got the short straw, if you will, at 3-7, having to stay up into what amounts to be the best league in the area. The other part is, that's the other thing we learned as we got into the playoffs last year, competitive equity, right? So if you look at enrollment plays less of a role in how they set up these leagues these days. It is really more about how can we make the best possible league that is equal in terms of skill from top to bottom.
And I think they did a good job with it. Obviously, Everett Alvarez is kind of, like you said, the short straw. But look, you got Seaside High School. They started off kind of rough, but they got their act together, made the playoffs. And they are always going to be tough. And they had a young team last year, so they're going to make some noise in the Gavilan Division as well. I mean, that's a good talent that they had last year, and they were young early.
Well, and then you jump down into those other other leagues, if you will. The Mission League, that's going to have Carmel in it. Pacific Grove, I believe. So it's going to leave. It's going to make for some really good football in those lower 3 divisions as we continue to work through the Intergalactic Bag Challenge down on the floor of the pit here at Salinas.
They're getting a good workout for sure. The interesting thing about the Mission League in the Pacific Coast Athletic League is PG did not make it into that league. They are in the Cypress division, but the last game of the season, they'll remain the shoe game between PG and Carmel. And by the way, Carmel is Salinas High School Cowboys' first football game.
Exactly. That'll be the opener for the Cowboys right here at the pit at Salinas High School. That will get things going for the Cowboys. A little later on, we'll take a look at the schedule for the Cowboys for this next season. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll probably have some 7-on-7s and a little lineman challenge going on here at the pit at Salinas High School. This is Cowboy Football on the radio, or the internet, if you will, tonight, brought to you by Gold Star Buick GMC. We'll be back in just a quick break. Welcome back to Cowboy Football on the radio. Kevin Richardson along with Dave Waite as we work through Friday Night Lights from the pit. Celebration of spring football, and we're about ready to get underway with some 7-on-7s down to our right. As you'll see on the monitor, they're going to work the JV 7-on-7. Center of the field, they're going to do the lineman one-on-ones. Maybe we can give Dave a little pep talk, send him down there, and he can break out that 1972 move off the edge when he played for the Rams of Colorado State. We got some 7-on-7 for the varsity going on down at the south end of the stadium. Looks like Carl Richardson in at quarterback. He'll take the snap. He'll throw the slant to Ivan Curiel. And, you know, Ivan had such a great season last year. Played on defense, played receiver, and, boy, has done nothing but get better here in the offseason. I think you're going to see a lot of great things from Ivan.
Well, I really like the way he sat down in the zone open, and you got between the defenders there. And I think that's what they got to learn in spring ball is to get to the open area, slow down their route, get the ball, and then move it upstream. And he did that very well just then.
Curiel normally plays from the right side. They'll get Cade Smith out on the left, as they'll just work through 7-on-7s. Deep ball into the corner of the end zone, up for grab, going to fall incomplete, back of the end zone. Nice poke there. Quarterback standing on the 35-yard line, puts it to the deep corner of the end zone. And, man, look at this crowd for a practice. Got to be proud of Cowboy Nation.
Well, they just love watching their kids play out here, and I think that's just the whole idea is just support your children. And these young men right now, as they are, they're not bashful. They want to have the folks come out and watch them play.
Got our cameramen Mark and Lawrence. They're working their way into the defensive backfield there. We'll kind of take a look at that camera as it buffers a little bit on us, and then we'll watch it when it crashes, when that ball ends up across the middle there. Third play from scrimmage. Richardson will check one down to Curiel. Good play there by the defense. And again, I think for the Cowboys, one of their challenges is they've got to replace Jeff Weimer, great wide receiver. Brett Reed had a spectacular season at quarterback. So those are the guys that you're trying to replace in terms of creating points and opportunity for you on offense.
Yeah, and their defense, of course, Drew Schuler was such a beast at linebacker. I mean, he just was a great leader on that defensive team, and he's going to be tough to replace. Yeah,
and you had Noah Hobbs, a great defensive lineman. Isaac Jacinto, I thought, made a lot of great plays. You know, and then you had a couple of two-way players. Kelly McDermott, I think you called him the ever-ready bunny. And Richie Serta, you know, came in thinking we were going to see a lot of running back from him, and he played a lot of running back, but, boy, towards the end of the year became a real staple on defense.
Yeah, he was.
As Richardson will send one deep to the back of the end zone, that ball will fall incomplete. Everybody covered there. But Richie, a guy who really came through big for the Cowboys.
Had a huge game against Milpitas, and just, I mean, boy, really stuck his neck out there, got blasted a few times, and after he ran the football, of course, when he ran the football, they're like, oh, this is the guy that just tackled me. Let's nail him. So he took a beating in that game, but came out with his head held high and a victory in a CCS championship.
Yeah, and it's an offense last year that averaged 30 points per game, 366 yards of offense as that pass will fall incomplete. 230 on the ground, 136 in the air. And defensively for the Cowboys, pretty stingy there. Allowed 15.4 points per game. And the stat that really jumps out at me, and I wrote it down at the end of last year, and, of course, we'll talk about it ad nauseum until we get into next season, but turnover ratio. They were +6 on the year, which is really good, meaning you net out the giveaways versus takeaways, and the Cowboys +6 as Cowboy offense takes another snap here, and Carl Richardson fires one down the seam to Jake Fellum, or Chad Fellum, rather, as he makes the catch down at the 5-yard line.
Well, we talked about that early in the season as far as the turnover ratio, and just about every level of football you look at that number, and you see teams that are successful are usually in the positive category. And I believe that's what got them kind of over the hump early, is they just really protected the football early in the season and won a couple games. Like against Seaside, they won a big game, and they just didn't give the ball up. And they got it back a couple times, and they scored. And I think that was a big reason for their success early, and they kept that momentum going through the rest of the season.
Boy, I agree. And then, you get into, as we'll go another snap here, Richardson will roll to the left side, look, and fire it right there to Cade Smith. Cade, a three-sport athlete for the Cowboys. And if you're looking for a guy that maybe tries to step in and fills the shoes of a Jeff Weimer who's departed, that's the same kind of receiver. A tall, rangy guy, real strong hands, can go up and get it for you. So that would be one of the guys that I would say probably fills in and picks up some of those numbers that Weimer had last year for the Cowboys.
Well, he's got some long arms, that's for sure.
Richardson's going to send one deep to the corner here, bounces off the defensive back and falls incomplete. You know, when you take a look at those stats, you got Jeff Weimer, 56 catches, 791 yards. But the part I always look at is where do you get your points? And he had 10 touchdowns.
Yeah, that's huge.
You know, another guy that you're gonna see quite a bit, I think, for the Cowboys. I don't believe he's here tonight. I think he had something else that he had to go to. But Zach Robinson, I think he'll end up being a pretty darn good receiver for the Cowboys this year. Played defensive back and receiver last year. Chad Fellum there with another catch for the Cowboys as he'll work over to the left side.
Robson is a good football player, and he played a huge role in the Cowboys' success last year. He was a big part of that team, and so he'll be nice to have back.
Cowboys usually work from a 2-by-2 formation. Occasionally they'll take the lone tailback and put him out as a receiver. So 3-by-2 formation right there. Mike Cortez in as a receiver. Curiel coming right across the middle there on that dig route, ball right on the money, and a nice catch there by Ivan. Ivan looking really athletic coming into spring ball.
Yeah, he keeps his hips square, and that's a big part of being a receiver, is square up when the ball gets you instead of being all twisted, and he really knows how to square up, and that's a huge part of being a good receiver over the middle.
Well, and then, at running back for the Cowboys, and, of course, we won't see the bruising runs that you'll see when the pads are on, but Mike Cortez is back. Mike was nothing short of spectacular last year, And he is, I think you mentioned it the other night at practice, probably 20 pounds heavier than he was last year. I mean, he is a mountain.
Yeah, he's looking like he can do some damage up the middle. And, you know, and he's got a little bit of speed, too, and I like the way he runs the football.
So, incomplete pass there by Richardson. And then backing Mike Cortez up, I think you'll probably see Abraham Hernandez. Abraham played some limited duty last year at tailback, and through no fault of Abraham, a pretty darn good running back, 33 carries, 130 yards. But remember, you had guys like Brett Reed that had almost 1,200 yards rushing, Richie Serta right at 750, and Mike Cortez at 680. So it was just a little bit crowded in that backfield. But I think Abraham will do really well. Deep ball down the left side will fall incomplete. But, that run game, when you spread things out with that 2-by-2 formation, you've got to have a back that can really make that cut and break that first tackle, and both of those guys very capable.
Well, if you look at the stats from last year, you're going to see that they really did a good job rushing the football. I mean, they did. I mean, they ran for 3,000 yards, and that was a huge part of their success. And if you can run the football and move the chains, you're going to score touchdowns in most cases. And they hang on to the football, and we talked about that earlier, as if you can hang on to the football and move the chains, you're going to score some points. And they had a good kicker as well last year.
Quick glimpse there at the lineman one-on-one. We'll go back over to the 7-on-7 field. Deep out to the right side. Nice catch and run there by the Cowboy receiver. And Cowboy is kind of hitting on all cylinders with that underneath game in terms of the passing game. And, of course, we got the JV working through things down at the north end of the field. And plenty of good athletes right there. And, the other thing I'm noticing, everybody's got that towel on tonight. It's got that Cowboy logo on it, looking pretty good. Kind of a what do you call that? Swag stuff we all get, a little party favor you get to take home after spring ball.
Heck yeah. Well, it's a little like the Jamboree here because we're kind of watching both sides of the field. Obviously, they all got the same color uniforms on. The Jamboree gets a little crazy when you got 4 different colors of uniforms. You didn't know who's what. But we still got some action down here in the middle of the field. Linemen going at it with kind of a wrestling move down there. It's kind of fun to watch.
So we'll try to give you as many looks as we can. We've got the remote camera down on the field. We'll kind of buffer on us occasionally as Dave and I work through the technical jump rope of the video side of the broadcast. Of course, Dave, I got to be honest with you. I like it when it's just audio because if I say he went left and he went right, unless you tell somebody, it's only the Bramers that are going to call me out on it because they're listening to the game inside the stadium.
Exactly. So you're right. The
Cowboys,
the video does put another level on it.
Hernandez in at tailback. Richardson will line things up. Fire one in. Fellum, boy, he is hot as a firecracker tonight. Picks up his 3rd catch of the evening. Chad, another guy who's a rising senior and a guy last year, when you look at how stacked this team was in terms of talent out at the wideout position, a guy that on most teams probably would have played quite a bit and didn't see the field a lot, and again, through no fault of his own.
Yeah, he's just in, his 3rd level, and you got to obviously you're playing behind a couple of seniors that are pretty darn good, and you just got to work your way up the ranks, and that's what spring ball is actually all about. I mean, he's trying to get the coaches to notice you, get some playing time, and then come fall, you got to put the pads on and make it happen. So that's what this practice is all about. Back in the good old days, we didn't have this type of practice. I wish we would have. It would have been fun. But they just didn't have the facilities back then. And, of course, now there's a lot of sports for these high school kids, which I think is fabulous.
Richardson will pull the ball down. We're going to go really tricky here. We're going to shoot from the iPad inside the press box. Get a little shot of that lineman challenge right in front of us here as they'll just work some one-on-ones. The key to that is got to extend those arms, especially with no helmet, because you don't want to take it in the nose, right, Dave?
The key to that is try to stay on your feet. And as you see, we saw a couple guys go down on the ground. But it's a wrestling match. I mean, football is similar to wrestling. Obviously, you can hold a little bit more than you used to be able to years ago. There's Carl throwing it down in the middle of the field. A nice spiral touchdown.
Deep one caught right there at the goal line for the touchdown. We'll go back over to those big guys, the offensive linemen doing the work. You know, the other day, kind of just taking a look at the offensive lineman, it was Louis Baltamia. He was in at center. Right guard was Devin Bone. Right tackle, Abel Garcia. Abel looks great. He's back from last year. He was a starter. Left guard, you had Joshua Gomez. Left tackle, Sebastian Gomez. That's the old Gomez 1-2 punch. Those guys can play a little bit of football for you, and they also flip around and play on the defensive side of the ball. And, of course, outside linebacker for the Cowboys, you've got Nathan Martorella. Of course, he's headed to Cal Berkeley on a baseball scholarship, but is one heck of a high school football player.
Sebastian Gomez is a big kid. I mean, he is a huge young man, and I was just watching him going one-on-one with his opponent and threw him down on the ground and went in and tackled the tackling dummy. He wanted to take the coach out, and the coach kind of had to sidestep him. But he is one good football player, and, of course, him and his brother were a big part of the team last year. So Nathan and Sebastian, we're going to hit a lot from them coming up in the fall. It should be a lot of fun.
Another nice catch there by Chad Fellon. Will catch and run down the left side off the bubble screen. And Cowboys make a lot of hay off that bubble screen. It's like running a sweep, but your tailback doesn't have to start behind the quarterback to get to the edge.
And the key is that timing on that play, and they ran it so well last year. It took them a while to get it going. Early in the season, they had some timing issues with that play, because the blocker cannot block before the guy gets the ball, or else it's a penalty. So the timing is utmost important. Nice pass down there field by Carl.
Corner route over into the edge there. We'll take a little quick look here at the JV 7-on-7 as we'll shoot that from our iPad camera inside the press box. I tell you what, all I need is a harmonica holder and then the little foot pedal for the drum. Get the one-man band going. We'll try to give you a little split screen here. So we got a split screen.
Oh,
got
yes.
the JV
Okay.
on one end, varsity on the other. Again, Friday Night Lights from the pit at Salinas High School, 726 South Main Street. Home of John Steinbeck, by the way. Richardson will take the snap. Look out to the left side. Nice completion there and a good run by the Cowboy receiver.
Very good route there.
John Steinbeck, a Cowboy, Salinas High Cowboy graduate. I'm not sure why it took me so long to figure that out. We'll adjust our camera here and go down the middle and see if we can watch a little bit of the lineman challenge along with the 7-on-7. A little split screen there. Feeling very Justin Allegre right now, my broadcast partner from college.
You think how many sports did they have when Steinbeck was here?
Boy, probably just football with no helmets, right?
Football, no helmets. Maybe
Richardson will throw the slant to the left side and a little one-on-one challenge there. Of course, they'll set that bag up that you see, the red bag. That's the quarterback. And you'll get an offensive lineman out there, and you'll make the rush to the bag. Of course, I say quarterback. Dave Waite's eyes light up.
Yeah, you just try to
get in there and get a little piece of that.
Always wanted the quarterback. You sack the quarterback, you get dinner for two the next night.
Want to thank our camera people today, Mark Bonus, Lawrence Zink, and Teresa Richardson. Teresa, always kind of the roustabout on this broadcast crew. Normally it's stats. Tonight we got her on camera. So they're going to set up their one-on-ones. We'll get a good shot of that right in front of us here at the press box. And here comes Gomez right up the middle. Seabass just taking it out on that box. Bubble screen out to the left side. Nice little catch and run.
So what we're looking for here on the lineman, we're looking for technique. We're looking at explosion. And you hear a lot about that when you talk about professional football. They talk about explosive. And what that basically means is as soon as that ball moves, as a defender, you move. You don't listen to the count. You watch the ball. And as soon as that ball moves, you're exploding through the line of scrimmage. We call it the LOS.
Well, and you want to be a little twitchy when you're down there on that offensive or that defensive line, as you said, Dave, right? As soon as that ball moves, you want to go.
Twitchy, okay. There's a lot of twitching going on tonight too, down on that defensive line. So they got some good explosion there. That was a good move by the defensive end.
Richardson will throw the slant route left side. Getting ready for another one-on-one right in front of us at the press box. Friday Night Lights, Cowboy football. Glad to have you on board via YouTube. SHS Cowboy Radio, all one word. Search it up, and if things go right, we'll have this on the internet for your viewing pleasure. Left side rush there gets home.
Nice move there. Not a big kid, but he's made a good quick move, explosive move to get to the quarterback. Or the fake quarterback, as we used to say.
Of course, the old days, in the 70s, Dave, I'm saying they had a live quarterback back there and you just tackle him. I'm guessing, right?
He wasn't a quarterback.
He was just a dude. Just a dude. Go get him.
Exactly.
Some more lineman work going on in front of us. We got to talk a lot about that. Otherwise, old Steve and Richard Zink will throw us out of the press box. We got to talk about those linemen. Richardson will take the snap, looks out to the left side, drops it right in there, and Fellum just stacking those catches up like cordwood tonight. Friday Night Lights, wearing number 1 for the Cowboys, and a nice little catch, a little toe tap on the sidelines.
Very nice move there to square his hips up.
Now, they always talk about getting mossed. We're going to have to say you got Weimered, I think, right? That's going to be the Cowboy thing. You got Weimered.
Yeah.
Here comes the rush off the edge. A little bit of that Gomez 1-2 punch gets home. I'm not sure I want to be a quarterback against the Cowboys.
I'm not sure I want to be an offensive lineman right now with that guy trying to block him without a helmet.
And, of course, he'll go both ways. Richardson will take the snap, looks across the middle, fires a dart there. Ball falls incomplete. Matthew Scott on coverage.
I liked about that one. That was early
and, of course,
over the middle.
If things go right, technology-wise, I'm pretty certain we're going to have the long ball challenge at the end with the kickers. Cowboys with 5 kickers this spring.
Well, I watched them the other day, and I'm telling you, there's 3 of them that got big-time legs, and they can really boot it.
Another nice rush there, taking down the blocking dummy for the Cowboys. Looks like Smith and Fellum will split to the left side. Hernandez, the lone tailback. Richardson will shuffle. He'll send it down the left side. Wants Smith. Smith back in the end zone. Touchdown, Cowboys. Great catch there by Caden Smith. Again, an athletic guy. His older brother, a guy that we loved. He played wide receiver in D-end. Cade's playing a little safety. They don't put him in at D-end, and doing pretty well.
That was a heck of a throw right there and catch. It's good timing there on that route. Is that people, when they see a long bomb, Kevin, they think it's something they just throw up in hope. But you have to practice that over and over again, the timing.
So we got a few of the 2017 Cowboys. Of course, they were at grad night last night, if my notes are correct, down at Universal Studios. A nice slant route to the right side there. Pull the flag there by Nick Marquez. Nick Marquez, a guy who, again, when you're on a good team, sometimes you got really good players that don't play a lot. Nick got thrown in late in the year because of some injuries, and Nick is an outstanding linebacker and made a nice play there for the Cowboys. And I think that's the guy, if you're saying, gosh, who can step in and kind of replace some of that production that you got from Drew Schuler, that's probably the guy.
Yeah, he's definitely the guy, and he's got some size, that's for sure, and he's got some good lateral speed. But get those pads popping, we'll figure out who's going to go where.
Slant route to the left side falls incomplete, but a nice ball in there nonetheless. Linemen are going to huddle up and work through another play.
I like the offensive lineman's effort there, keeping him away from that quarterback. Tough job, though, with no pads. You got to really use your hands and use your arms. Keep your arms and your hands inside. Kind of get a grab on. Back in the old days, you couldn't do that. Now you can.
Little pump fake and a little shot down the rail by Richardson. Ball falls incomplete. Try to get you a little shot of the JV here in just a second. Watch a little bit of their 7-on-7. But I tell you, I'm kind of fixated on the offensive line. Kind of fun watching the offensive and defensive line get after it.
Here they go. They're getting after it right now. I like the effort there.
Richardson will check one down to Mike Cortez.
Like
on the rush there for the Cowboy defense. That's none other than Arthur Barnes, our cameraman from last year. And I think we are minus a cameraman this year, Dave, quite frankly, as Art will be up on the JV. And I know that he's going to play a lot of football this year. So it will be sad to see him go, but again, enjoy watching him play some JV football this year as our camera person, Teresa Richardson, sharp as a tack, flips it down to the JV end of the field and gets a little shot of the JV 7-on-7 as they take a few last reps. Got some video of Coach Zink out there on the field with one of our cameramen. Of course, I had the cameraman challenge. I wanted to make sure that one of them got run over because I just thought that would really be fun video, but they've managed to stay out of the way thus far.
You talked about Arthur Barnes last year, did a great job for us, and he's just a fine young man. And he's got some size. Once he fills in, he's going to be tough to deal with. I mean, I believe he's still a sophomore. Is that correct, Kevin?
He is still a sophomore and a big sophomore, as you mentioned. That's for sure. So the other thing we'll do here is we'll kind of take a look at next year's schedule for the Cowboys. August 17th, put it on your calendar, the City Jamboree. Dave and I kind of with our football attention deficit disorder, we get pretty excited when there's football going on and when we have two teams working at each end of Rabobank Stadium. That thing was a sellout last year. Spirit contest between the schools. And that was really fun to watch the kids turn out in mass. We had the kids crowd surfing. I'm not sure the administrators like that much, but I do know that I challenged Richard Zink to maybe do a little crowd surfing this year when they're over there. But that will be fun to get things underway. And for me, it really is kind of the city coming together and supporting high school football. It's a neat night.
Last year was a huge night, and the bands did a great job of entertaining everybody, and it was something else. It was, like you said, it was a packed stadium, a lot of good vibes. There wasn't really back in the 60s when you played a jamboree like that, there was some bad blood between high schools, and getting them together. We used to play a quarter back then. Every team, there would be 8 teams, and you'd play a quarter. 4 quarters, and it just seemed like there was anger involved. And last year it was more camaraderie. It was like you said, getting the city together. The bands were playing. Everybody was, like you say, spirit contests. It was just a good time.
Well, the coaches are splitting things up. We're going to have some 40s. They're going to time some 40s, work through that. They're going to do a few of the cone drills like you would see at an NFL combine. So we're going to see a lot of that go on in the next few minutes here as it looks like we're done with the 1-on-1s and the 7-on-7s. So we'll let that camera roll. And so City Jamboree gets going, and then you mentioned it, Dave, August 24th, right here at the pit at Salinas High School. We'll kick off the 2018 season with Carmel. Carmel last year, 6-4, 4-2 in league play. That's a team that's got some talent. They've got a couple of quarterbacks that can really play. Golden Anderson is known for having teams that score a lot of points. That should be a packed house. We'll get quite a few people from Carmel Valley, all your neighbors over here. And I know a few years ago they had an opener here in the city of Salinas. They brought a lot of fans, and that'll be a fun opener for the Cowboys and the Padres.
Yeah, that's one we're looking forward to after the Jamboree. It should be a lot of fun. They came on late in the season, and I was really surprised they didn't make the playoffs. I think they came like 1 point short of making the playoffs. They might have done some damage. They had a 2-quarterback situation earlier in the season, kind of couldn't figure it out. They had a couple guys that got hurt that came on at the end. I know they had a transfer that didn't kind of play until like the 3rd or 4th game. And once they got their act together, they were a pretty tough football team. I know they lost a heartbreaker to Scotts Valley in the last second of that football game. And so they are going to be somebody to reckon with in their division, which is called the Mission Division. So you got Alisal, Carmel, Monte Vista Christian, North County, Scotts Valley, Soledad, and Watsonville. So that's going to be an interesting division to watch next year. The Pacific Coast Athletic League Mission Division. Obviously, Carmel Mission, I'm sure that's where they came up with that one.
Well, and again, at 6-4, and again, your point is don't let that record fool you. That's for sure. You know, when you look at it overall for the Cowboys, a bye in week 2, they've got 8 playoff games or playoff teams that are on their 10-game regular season schedule. 2 section champs with Christopher and who won D4 and Gilroy who won D5 along with the Cowboys. So, you know, obviously 3 total section champs in the new league. But again, 2 section champs on the docket. 1 state champ in Milpitas, and Cowboys will have the bye in week 2, which is kind of interesting. If you're a Stanford or San Diego State fan, as we see the 40-yard dash get underway and some cone drill down on our right, some great camera work there by Teresa Richardson. But San Diego State, Stanford, a Friday game on the bye week, which is August 31st, and then the next week, September 7th, Clovis from Fresno, the Cougars make their way over to Salinas, and they were team 7-5 last year, 2-3 in league play. Rich Hammond, the head coach, and if that name rings a bell, kind of a Hollister guy, if you will, was an assistant coach over at Hollister, then went to Gilroy, had some very successful seasons there at Gilroy, had Jamie Jensen at quarterback, threw for over 7,000 yards in 2 seasons at quarterback, and then Rich made the move over to the Central Valley. And it's interesting when you look at the CCS, not a lot of cross-pollination with what is the central section, and that would be Bakersfield up to Los Banos. You get a lot of teams over into the Sac Joaquin section, up into Sacramento, up into the North Bay, the East Bay, that kind of thing, but not a lot of cross-pollination with the central section. Clovis, a perennial power down there. Clovis, Clovis West, Clovis East. They all play great high school football. Their junior teams feed their varsity teams. They all run the same offense, same defense. The facilities are spectacular. It's a home and away deal, so if you're going to be around for a couple of more years, you'll be making the trip over to Fresno in 2019.
Right.
So if you're a Cowboy fan and making your travel plans, if you will, get that Best Western booked over in over in Fresno. But that's going to be a really, really good team and a really interesting team to look at the optics in terms of how does the central section match up with the Central Coast section.
Yes, and that's a lot of information there, but it goes back down to that game between Stanford and San Diego State. So that means we're tailgating that game?
You know, we may as well. That is for sure. So
that's what I took out of that whole deal, is that we're going to go up to Stanford and watch that ball game.
Should be a lot of fun. So Clovis game 2, Milpitas, a rematch from last year. And again, Cowboys played them twice last year, lost 27-0 here at the pit, and then won 25-18 in the finals and got that CCS Division I title to bring home down the 101. Milpitas 14-1 last year. The one loss to the Cowboys.
Well, we're hoping that winning that state title kind of lessens their anger by losing that CCS title. That's what I'm thinking. But this will be the rubber match apparently in their minds, because that's what they are. They're Milpitas. They love football. They love, they think they're the best team around, and that's going to be a very interesting football game. Should be a lot of fun here in Milpitas High School. I'm sure we're going to go up there, and I'm sure going to welcome the Salinas Cowboys with open arms, of course.
Yeah, and of course, Milpitas is interesting. That time of year, 2 years ago, the Cowboys were up there pretty warm. Cowboys don't play well in warm weather. They really don't. And that was a challenge. It was a close game. Milpitas, plenty of talent 2 years ago, and the Cowboys, I believe it was 12-3, some crazy score like that. Not a lot of touchdowns scored in that game, but Milpitas really gutted by graduation. But it will be interesting to see how they regroup and reload for next year. Then you jump into league play, drive up north on Main Street, and the Cowboys will meet Palma at Rabobank Stadium. Probably want to buy your tickets early for that one. Plenty of room at Rabobank Stadium, but the house that Warren Whalen built will be full and rocking for that Palma game.
Yeah, and so Palma wants to get back on the winning track against the Salinas Cowboys, what they dominated for so many years. And now that the Cowboys have beaten them soundly, that'll be a rivalry game for sure.
So the Chieftains 7-5 last year, 5-2 in league play. They were third in league. Then Everett Alvarez is your next one on the docket, and that will be right here at the pit at Salinas High School. They are 3-7 last year, 1-6 in league play. They've got a new head coach in place, and I'm sure they will be on a bit of an upswing. And then a trip to Gilroy at Christopher. Dave, you and I called a game there a few years ago. Nice facility. Don Christopher, kind of the benefactor of the garlic magnate, if you will, but a lot of the money behind building that school. A great facility and an interesting matchup with a team that was 11-2 overall, 4-2 in league play, second in league to Gilroy, by the way, but went on to win the Central Coast section title. Not in an open division, but nonetheless, you're winning 11 games. You're doing some things right, and that program going in the right direction. Their reward for playing good football is, guess what? You get to move up and play in the big league.
Well, we saw them play a few years ago, like you said, and they were pretty young. They just had split the schools up. Gilroy was the main high school back then, and then they split it up into two high schools because there was an overabundance of students. Well, the first couple of years in a sport, any sports program is going to have their growing pains, and they did. And they came back last year in a pretty good league, and, you know, like you said, they ended up winning the Central Coast section title. And so they're coming out. They want to win the league title just like everybody else. Unfortunately, Gilroy is in their league, and that's a huge rivalry up there.
Will and Gilroy going through a coaching change. We'll talk about them. They're in week 8 for the Cowboys. But when you go back to Christopher, the thing I like the most is they are the Cougars, but they have the leopard spots on the uniform. So I just like pointing that out when we make our way over to the Christopher High School game. Well, Friday Night Lights here at Salinas High School. The Cowboys celebrating the end of spring football, and a great crowd turned out tonight. Got the taco truck rolling, got the music fired up, and just having a lot of fun as a football program, as Coach Zink will drop the curtain on workouts, as you heard in his pregame or pre-Friday Night Lights interview, rather. You drop the curtain on football training for a couple of weeks. Kids go do finals. Kids go on vacation. As he said, kids go be kids. And then you get ready to crank things back up in June and really get pointed towards August. So staying with that schedule for the Cowboys, Seaside, they make their way to the pit. Last year, Cowboys out at Seaside, and new athletic director out there took care of us as a broadcast crew, put us inside. So we got to make sure we hook him up with a tri-tip when he comes over here next year to the pit. But Al Avila, the head coach of the Spartans of Seaside High School, and Al, a guy who has seen a little bit as a head coach, that is for sure. Been around multiple decades, has had some great players, some great teams. Hunter Mason probably, Mason Foster, rather. Hunter Mason, former Salinas Cowboy. Mason Foster still playing in the NFL. He's a linebacker in the NFL, played quarterback and linebacker for Al Avila, and won a Central Coast section title against Pacific Grove, a game that I called with John Berlin many years ago. But Al, a guy, you can never sleep on him. I kind of like how he does the Paul Bear Bryant on things. His team 6-5 last year, 3-4 in league play, and they were in the mix right down to the last week in terms of where they were going to finish up in league standings. Obviously made it into the playoffs, but that's a guy that will do the Paul Bear Bryant poor mouth. Man, I'm not sure if we can play with these guys. And then when they line up, there's no doubt he's got athletes, he's got them coached up, and they're ready to play. Yeah, we've watched him for many years. I think that might have been the first time I heard you on the radio in that broadcast. And I said, hey, I know that guy. And a little scratchy back then. I hope we're clearer now. That's right. That's right. The old days. It was just the old analog cell phone, if memory serves me correct. So after that, Gilroy 13-0. Think of that, unbeaten. The Gilroy Mustangs, and they're going through a coaching change. They will open up with Liberty from the East Bay up in Brentwood, almost to Davis. Liberty's an interesting school. They've got a gunslinger at quarterback, so it'll be interesting to see them. They're on a Saturday for their opener. So I'm sure if you're psychotic like my family, you'll drive up and check that out to get a sneak peek at Gilroy. But again, 13-0 last year. That team doesn't forget how to win, even though the coach has moved on.
Yeah, they were super tough last year, and everybody played them. Just said they just learned how to win, and I wasn't even aware of how good they were until they ran the table, and I said, wow, this is a team we've watched over the years when we did the Tri-County League, and they were always tough. And the thing I loved about Gilroy is their spirit at the school. They got a great band. They got great cheerleaders. It's just always a lot of fun up in Gilroy. So I'm looking forward to that one too.
Well, and again, it's kind of a walk down memory lane, if you will. You know, Rich Hammond, the coach at Clovis, he was the coach at Gilroy, and boy, I remember distinctly doing a couple of games over there with the quarterback that he had and all the things that he was doing. And now we're going to be back at Gilroy calling a game there. And then the Hay Balers, they come to town. They come to the Pit on October 26th. Brian Smith, he'll be in his third year as the head coach. And as I mentioned earlier tonight, they're going through a complete redo of Andy Harden Field. Let's hope the tri-tip stays the same, because I give it it's top third in the league, that's for sure. But they're going to take the field completely down. They're redoing all of their athletic facilities, so the Hay Balers will end up playing home games at Rabobank. And the way it kind of spins out, they've got quite a few Thursday games this next year. So when you talk about sneaking over and scouting somebody, I know that I have my Thursday nights filled up because I can go over there and watch the Hay Balers play live on Thursday night at Rabobank.
That is incredible. That's the first I've heard of it, and it's very interesting that they would do that. But you know, what else are you going to do? I mean, they have no field over there, apparently.
Well, and there was talk, do they go to Gilroy and play either at Gilroy High or Christopher? But I kind of think on that, my belief is I grew up in Shafter, and you would never play home games at Wasco, right? I don't even drive through Wasco if I can avoid it, right? When I go to Wasco, I'm in a bad mood, and that was, you know, many, many years ago. And I think that's the case with what you've got going on there. I think there was a little bit of, you know, do we really want to play over where our rivals play? And I think that makes a lot of sense, and you've got a great facility there at Rabobank, and the Hay Baler crowd, I mean, they put on those 20X Wranglers and
they travel
head on
really
over,
well.
And they will fill things up, I'm sure.
They travel well, and now they got the big pit there to cook their tri-tips, so they'll be in hog heaven, I guess you'd call it.
And then we'll finish things up with the Mariners of Aptos High School, as the Cowboys working through the cone drills, working through the 40s, and all the timed events. Again, everything you would see at an NFL combine or a college combine, the Cowboys are working through that tonight here on the floor of the Pit. Had some 7-on-7, had some linemen 1-on-1 if you're just tuning in. The good news is when we finish up, we'll post this on the internet, and you can take a look and watch it over and over again. So Aptos coming here to finish things up. Aptos 7-4. Remember, the Cowboys had to beat Aptos in the final game of the regular season to be the outright league champs, able to get that victory. But Aptos 7-4 overall, 6-1 in league play. The only loss for the Mariners was to the Cowboys. Randy Blankenship, 34 years as a head coach, 44 years as a coach. They play on Trevin Dilfer Memorial Field, but they're going to be coming to the Pit. And Blankenship's been around long enough. I always talk about, you know, does a player put a game on a calendar? I know you did in the 70s, Dave. I know I did in the 80s. Well, now your calendar's on your iPhone. But Coach Blankenship, I'm going to say 44 years as a coach, he's got a paper calendar, and he has circled that game and said November 2nd at the Pit, we have to make right what happened in the final regular season game last year.
Yes, a big interception in that play. If you remember correctly, the Cowboys came up with it in the fourth quarter to turn that ball game around on that final drive, and that was a huge play. And, wow, that's what turned things around. Big interception. I can't remember who did it. Was it Serta who came up with that football? But it was a fabulous play, and, wow.
Kelly McDermott his second interception of the night.
Right.
And Of course, took the Mariners, who lived and died by the run with the wing tee, forced them to throw the ball at the end there, and Cowboys able to get the interception and preserve the win. And taking a look at the remote camera work there as the Cowboys working through their 40 times, and some great camera work, to say the least, by Mark Bonus and Lawrence Zink down there on the field. Teresa Richardson up in the stands with the sideline camera for us tonight. And again, we hope you're enjoying this version of Cowboy football on the internet, brought to you by Gold Star Buick GMC, right on the corner, right on the price. And J.J. Jeffries, always a great supporter of Cowboy athletics. Want to thank him for everything that he does for the Cowboys. And then looking at that schedule, Central Coast Section playoffs, state playoffs after that. Central Coast Section playoffs, my understanding, going to be pretty close to what we had last year. 3 open divisions, and then divisions 4 and 5. 4 and 5, you can't go on to state, but divisions 1 through 3, the first and second teams are eligible. I believe last year we had 5 teams go through from the Central Coast section. Cowboys, without a doubt, will be in the Division 1 of the Open, because the top stack-ranked schools, that is by enrollment. Didn't confirm this prior to the broadcast, so I've talked my way right into a corner, but I also understand that there's going to be 1 more week of playoffs, so that will add a whole nother round and a whole nother week to the postseason.
Yeah, we're watching these guys run the 40s down here, these linemen, and they're very competitive. They're kind of jawing each other, as they go. And, of course, we're on your camera now. You see them doing the cone drill, but to our left here, you watch them run the 40s, and it's pretty competitive tonight.
Well, and Dave, if you and I want to get down there and run some 40s, I'm sure I'd give us both a turn.
No. Well, I'm not going to make it 40 yards tonight. It's been a rough week physically for old football players, so we're not going to do that.
Well, and the Cheer's been doing their off-season work, just like every team. The cheerleaders, like the football players, have the audacity to graduate and move on. And Malik Kuda doing that off-season work for Salinas Cowboys. She has her new cheer squads in place, and Dave's got a list, and he'll let you know who we can look for doing that Gold Star Buick GMC boot dance when we get things going here at the first home game on August 24th against Carmel.
Well, we got a lot of returning cheerleaders from last year's varsity squad. Elisa Diaz, Andrea Bernal, Angelina Salinas, Anna Ballesteri, Bella Martin, Boston Kuda, Brianna Ortiz, Christina Wilcox, Dorothea Chicas, Gabriela Lopez, Jasmine Barboza, Jordan Ramirez, Julia Loomis, Kaylee Jimenez, Lauren Graham, Leslie Ochoa, Maddie Jackson, Madison Mena, Raina Becerra, Sarah Flynn, Taylor Budge, Vanessa Calderon, and Deanna Estrada. And that's your varsity lineup. And I gave them a big boost last year because they really kept the crowd into it. And they just were part of the whole, when the crowd was down at the west end of the field, they just had a great time down there last year, and hopefully we'll see the same thing this year.
Well, and Coach Zink and Malik got together last year and said, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to change where we put the cheerleaders. Normally they've been on the west side in front of the concession corral, if you will, when the reality was the majority of the students sit at the bottom of the horseshoe down at the south end of the pit. And so it made sense. Hey, let's move the cheerleaders down here. And then the administration at Salinas High School got on board and said, well, hey, let's kind of get this thing kicked up a notch. And, of course, we had the blackout where the players or the students bought the black T-shirts with the Cowboy logo on it. And, as you said, those that proximity of the cheerleaders to the crowd and the good football that was going on.
And the band.
Yeah, and the band. Definitely an A-plus night for Cowboy fans when you come out here to the pit.
Yeah, and I think it was a great side. Like you said, on the west side, the parents are over there just going, well, this is way more fun than I had in high school. They were a little bit jealous last year, but they just enjoyed it. They see their kids playing football on the field. They see their kids over there enjoying themselves in the stands. They see the band members. It was just a great situation last year.
Well, we got a young Cowboy fan in front of us here at the at the pit at Salinas High School. We'll get him to give us a wave right there as a great crowd tonight out for Cowboy football on the radio as we work through Friday Night Lights, a fun night of football for everybody. If you're a football junkie, I think this kind of fires you up a little bit. What do they say? Whets the appetite as you get ready to think about what does 2018 look like.
Well, it just makes me want to see football games.
Yeah.
That's basically what it does. Back in the good old days, obviously they didn't have this kind of deal in the spring. But boy, I wish they would have. It would have been a lot of fun because we had baseball basically back then, and it was a quick, short season and very rainy. Of course, I went to high school up in Seattle, Washington, so it was like this. It was like football weather all year long up there. It didn't really get nice until we got out of school. So. This would have been a lot of fun.
Well, and the Cowboys, as you notice when you look at the video, and to kind of become a little more stealth, they'll pull off their jersey, and underneath the jersey is the shirt with the Cowboy logo on it. It's got the Block S on there with Steamboat, the bucking horse, on the front, and on the back it says Cowboys get better every day. And along with that, they've got on the black shorts that have that Cowboy, that Block S logo with Steamboat on there. And then also it says MBL and CCS champs. So part of their spirit pack. And again, one of the things Coach Zink's always talking about is, it's great that we did what we did, but we need to remember what it took to get there. And again, that's the challenge here in the offseason, is to really try to step to that next level and maintain and improve.
Well, I think that comes with football talent. Obviously, they got a good football team. They have some kids that played on the varsity last year that are coming back that are very talented. But overall, coming from a school in Seattle that had a tradition of winning, it's just the seniors kind of say, okay, this is what we have to do. We have to get in great shape. We have to get stronger, like it says on the T-shirt, get stronger every day, get better every day. And we have to organize. Our coaches have to, figure out who the leaders are, get them in a leadership position, and then we go from there. And that's what it takes on a high school level and a college level, of course, as well. And the coaches, that's one of their big jobs, is to put their leaderships out in front. And that's what you look for in a spring ball situation. Who's going to lead your team? Who's going to be the catalyst? Who's going to be that guy that says, when we're down in the fourth quarter, let's keep it going, let's keep it rocking. Let's not worry about the score right now. Let's just score a touchdown and just keep moving. Those are the kind of guys you're looking for right now here in spring ball.
Well, and again, we kind of talked about that offensive line. We talked about it running back. Mike Cortez back, and he's bigger, stronger. I think, dare I say, a little bit faster too. And Abraham Hernandez, again, Abraham, one of those guys like a Chad Phelan, like a Nick Marquez, where you're a really good player on a really good team, and you played, but not maybe as much as you would have played for another program. And boy, I know if you're one of those guys, you're coming into this season going, man, this is hammer down from start to finish. I'm excited to get my chance to get out here and play and show what I can do. And then, we were talking about the Gomez boys, the 1-2 punch, and on that offensive and defensive line, Joshua and Sebastian. Those guys are going to be a wrecking ball. You throw in Martorella working off of the end there. You put together some defensive backs in there behind it. You got a guy like Cole Burke, right? He was that missile on kickoff cover. You and I just, all we'd have to say on kickoff, tackle by Cole Burke. That guy is out doing track right now. Actually, tonight, I believe, CCS track and field meet. He'll be out. He'll be a defensive back for the Cowboys. Probably play some wide out also. Roderick Gaskins is a guy who has transferred in, and Poe, as they call him, he's also at the CCS track meet tonight. So that's a guy that we didn't see, but a darn good football player for the Cowboys. John Mendala, same thing. He was involved in track, so we don't see him out here tonight catching footballs and doing those things. But Cowboys get better every day and also reloading every year.
Well, that's a good thing that the track is not as hot as it was in the previous years for the track CCS championship, which has kind of been a bummer. when they come from the Central Coast, they go over there and it's 100 degrees, and they're kind of like, oh my goodness. So this year, hopefully it's a little cooler, and they perform better than they have in the past when it's like boiling hot over in Fresno. So let's wish those guys luck. Let's have they'll have that good track meet.
So Gina Martorella and Dale Jensen taking care of the Cowboys. They got that water break. Got to stay hydrated, even though it's cold and windy tonight. And our good buddy Jim John Gillot and Bo Gillot, they're doing the work on the public address tonight for the Salinas Cowboys, and just finished up those 40-time shuttle run and the L drill on the schedule. They've got tackling circuit as they mass right there at the Block S in the center of the field, as you see on the monitor. But I'm kind of wondering if they work through that tackling circuit or not. But it looks like they are. They're getting the trash cans out and getting ready for that tackling circuit. And Dave, I think we ought to send you down on the field. You get a piece of that donut in that tackling circuit.
That donut thing was very intriguing when I saw that. I said, that's something new. And I was talking to one of the parents. They said, "Oh, we want to use that in junior football too, because it gives you the idea of a weight, something that you can pick up and tackle and use technique, because it's very important in the last few years about the tackling techniques have obviously changed from the years that I played football. We're trying to get away from head injuries, and one of the ways to do that is to teach these kids how to tackle properly and safely. And that's a big part of spring ball this year, is tackling safely.
Well, and we'll get a shot of those tackling drills as they work through it tonight. Interesting when you break it down. And here come the donuts right on cue. We'll try to get a shot of those donuts as they make their way out onto the field here. And again, Dave's favorite drill of the bunch. But as they get that set up and get ready to go, the key these days is, and that's what jumped out at me the other day when I watched the practice. And you talk about, where do you put your head? And in the old days, we led with the head. You get the head in front of the ball carrier so it doesn't break the tackle, right? I remember when they would teach that, I'd always think, God, but it's my head. Yes, but it stops the ball carrier. Well, what they found is if you use a rugby tackle, you put your head behind the ball carrier. You don't take that blunt force in the temple, if you will. You grab, wrap, and roll. And they found that it's much more effective from a tackling standpoint. As you see the donut drill underway there, what they're teaching there is wrapping those legs and grab and twist. Obviously the physics of it makes a lot of sense if you want to keep guys healthy from the shoulders up. And as our broadcast probably attests to sometimes, all those shots to the head are maybe not the best thing in the world.
Well, no, they're not, as we've found out from some former NFL football players in the big lawsuit that they've had about the CTE. But the thing is, the new technique was the old technique. When they first started playing football was thought up because of rugby. Rugby was a little too rough, so they developed the game of football with the pads and everything. And obviously they didn't start off with helmets back then, so they tackle with their shoulders. Of course, there was a lot of broken noses back then. Then they had the leather helmets to protect the ears back then. And then they carried on from then with the bar across the face to protect the nose from being broken. So back in the 20s and 30s, they had a lot of messed up ears. We called them cauliflower ears back in those days. And a lot of broken noses. But then, as the game evolved, it turned into using that head as a weapon, or that helmet. And then the helmets weren't as good as they are today, so we obviously had a lot of concussions back in the day, and of course it wasn't widely known what a concussion did to somebody's brain until recently. So therefore we've gone back in time and are teaching our kids now to tackle the way they did when we first started playing football, which is a very effective way to do it. That's how you stop a runner, with your shoulders, and drive into them and twist. And so some things always circle back in time.
Well, and if you take a look at the left side of your screen there, what the Cowboys are teaching there, the Cowboy coaches are teaching there, you get your head on the proper side, you wrap and roll, kind of like an alligator, basically. And again, all of these things, you and I make our jokes about all of the shots to the head, and 70s and 80s football and all those different things, but the reality is if you're a parent and you're thinking about, should my son be involved in competitive football? Because the headlines have not been great in terms of those outcomes. Remember, too, the sample size, and remember, too, what you're seeing right now on your screen. You're seeing a different approach to football that takes the head out of tackling. You have helmets that are exponentially better than the helmets that were worn in the 70s, 80s, and even the 90s when you look at what the kids are wearing today. And you look at the way these coaches are taking care of these kids and making sure that they're taught to tackle correctly. So if you're a parent and you're tuned in and you're wondering, should my son who's getting into high school, and I don't care where you're going to play high school, it isn't a pitch for one school or the other, but it is a pitch for competitive athletics and football, if you will. The changes that have been made are a real plus for the sport. And proud to be, I got to be honest with you, I'm really proud to be a part of the sport with the changes that have gone on, because had it stayed down the path it was going, that's just not the right way to go. Yeah. And now I can say full on, I'm actually, as a parent who has a kid that plays multiple sports, the fact that you have on a great helmet and you've got all these great techniques that you have learned, I think your risk is very similar to any other sport. You think about collisions on a volleyball court or a basketball court. Sometimes things will happen, but again, the sport of football go in the right direction with what you're seeing on your screen right now.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And another thing about the helmet tackling back in the day was that when you put a helmet on a knee or a calf or a back or a hip, it was just inflicting major pain on everybody involved. Not only was the tackler getting stunned by leading with his head, but the people that were getting tackled were getting hip pointers and knee shots. And I can remember getting a helmet on the side of my leg one time, and it was a huge contusion, and it took a couple of weeks for it to heal. Obviously, I still played on it, but it was just like super painful. You weren't supposed to block below the waist back then, but this guy did, and took a helmet in the side of the thigh, and let me tell you, it took a while for that to go away. So it's great on every aspect of the game, the new tackling techniques.
Cowboys working through the tackling drills. We got the donut drill right in front of us. Over in the distance, they've got the yellow trash can set up, and then right on our center screen, they're working through the tackling dummies, and then the donuts in the right side of the screen there. And again, these are the same drills that you'd see if you're a Cowboy parent. You come out here and watch practice. Can't say that enough. Coach Zink has said over and over again that if we're going to have your kids for 2.5, 3 hours in the afternoon and you want to come watch practice, come watch practice, because we have absolutely nothing to hide. We're actually proud of what we do and how we coach this sport. So we had a lot of parents out for spring ball, but remember that if you're a parent, you're tuned in or you're watching this on replay and in the fall and you're wondering, hey, what goes on between 3 and 6 o'clock over there at 726 South Main Street? Swing on by and check it out. Know that Coach Zink and his staff, they've done a great job of being prepared, and that's the other part that I think people need to realize. The teams that are playing good football, those practices for the fall are already on a schedule. Right, just like tonight's practice. You don't just go out there like they did in the old days and say, hey, let's just figure out what we're going to do. What you've actually got going on is some real thought process in terms of what should we be doing and how are we trying to improve as football players. And, again, you're seeing testimony to that as you watch the drills go on tonight via the Internet.
Yeah, I just when I see the donut drill, I just want to take care of that donut, just hammer it. But they're obviously taking their time. They're breaking down. As you see on the screen, they're breaking down when they get to the object comes from, they're breaking down, because if you don't break down and there's a running back that has a football, I mean, he's trained to get by you. He wants to fake you out. So if you're not broken down, he will just fake you out and run around you. They're trying to teach him how to keep your level, keep your weight balanced, and so when that guy makes a move on you, you can pick him up and stop the football from going down the field. So it's a great drill. I really like it.
So you saw the Cowboys, they rotate in between the drills. One of the things Coach Zink will do if he feels like the tempo between the transition from drill to drill is not good enough, then he'll send them back, right? Talks about doing things the Cowboy way. And you're getting a great field shot right there by our cameraman down on the field looking at these looking at these tackling drills and working through things tonight. That's Mark Bonus on the field camera along with Lawrence Zink. And, of course, Lawrence, brother of Steve and Richard. And I got to tell you, I'm not sure Lawrence, a big guy, but I'm not sure between Richard and Steve that maybe he won many of the wrestling matches for that last piece of Kentucky Fried Chicken, because I think Richard and Steve probably won that battle.
Yes, they did, obviously. But as we're walking, looking at we can't see it on the screen here, as there's tackling the trash cans over on the other side of the field. We can't really see that yet, but that's another tackling drill that I kind of like, because they're kind of running up to the trash can and breaking down, as if you will, instead of just running through it like you're just like some running back that's not going to make a move on you. And so there we go. And it obviously makes you want to think, hey, I haven't taken out the trash today, so that's another thing. Get these kids used to taking out the trash. So the moms up there going, yeah, they get used to tackling that sucker, buddy.
Well, the other part was I pointed it out to Coach Zink the other day. I said, man, talk about a level of detail. That's not some ugly gray trash can. He said, oh, no, man, I'm getting the gold ones, right? Purple and gold.
Exactly.
Salinas Cowboys and got those gold trash cans. Of course, I could do without the red donuts and I guess the red tackling dummy maybe makes sense if you're a Salinas Cowboy. But, yeah, as you pointed out, Dave, with that trash can drill over there, we always talk about in our radio broadcast, keeping your shoulders parallel to the line of scrimmage. And that's exactly what they're working on. They're working on you come up, you stalk that running back, and you stay parallel to the line of scrimmage and make that play. And, again, if you're parallel to the line of scrimmage, if the running back goes left or right, you're ready to go, as they'll make, I think, what is their last rotation here to finish things up with the tackling drills tonight. I want to thank you for tuning in. Cowboy football on the radio. We'll have it again for you this fall. Power Talk 1460. Home of Cowboy football on the radio. We'll have the jamboree for you to get things rolling on August 17th, and then Carmel right here at Salinas High on August 24th. We'll take a weekend off, the bye week coming early for the Cowboys, and then we'll rattle through the last 9 regular season games for the Cowboys, and hopefully we'll have some fun in the playoffs just like last year. So always fun to bring you Cowboy football on the radio. The other thing, Steve Zink Cowboy Football Podcast. Just go ahead and take a look at our Twitter page, SHSCowboyRadio, all one word, at SHSCowboyRadio. We'll have a little Steve Zink Cowboy Football Podcast, kind of get you up to speed in terms of what's going on in June and July for Cowboy football.
When does that start?
We'll get one of those off right after the 1st of June. So Coach finish up finals and get a week off, get things all ready to go, and then work through our podcast schedule for the summer. And then we'll be up and running with Cowboy football. And, of course, the Cowboys going back to school in early August.
Yeah, it really comes quick. That jamboree is – what's the date on that jamboree?
17th.
The 17th of August. And you'll hear us on the radio, and we're looking forward to that big jamboree. And, again, we're hoping it runs as smoothly as it did last year, because we had a lot of fun. And talking to the parents afterwards, after we had broken down the radio broadcast, and we were walking amongst the parents, and I recognized a few of them. We just kind of talked, and they said, we really liked the atmosphere this year. It's just so much better than previous years, and it just seems like everybody's really into sports. I mean, there's so many sports available for these high school kids today, and I think it's a great thing. Everybody's just stoked on their season coming up, whether it's volleyball or water polo or basketball or baseball or girls hockey or girls field hockey or girls soccer or boys soccer. There's just so much going on. And not to mention at Salinas High School, they got a great band program.
Oh,
They got a great drama program.
I
mean, it's just there's so much stuff for these kids to do, and obviously one of the hardest things to do is just study, because you're having so much fun going through high school, you forget, oh my goodness, the reason I'm here is to get a diploma.
And the district has their numbers, and they talk about that in the fall when you come in as a parent for the big parent presentation. But the reality is, they know that the kids that are involved in sports miss fewer days of school. They know that those kids get better grades. So the kid that's involved is, number one, a happy kid, And as Coach Zink says, a happy kid is a productive kid. I don't know what that means about radio broadcasters. I think we probably need to get happy. Maybe we'd be a little more productive. But again, a great place here at Salinas High. Libby Duthman, the principal, heard her talk the other night at the spring sports, and she talked about the accreditation process. And when that group comes in, right, that's a group from the outside that's checking on everything to make sure it's at the proper standard. And the one thing that she said that the first thing that they brought up was the fact that their star performers academically at Salinas High were also 2- and 3-sport athletes. So really talking about that time management and you know, being involved in the right things, if you will.
The accreditation process, thank goodness I didn't have to deal with that in the construction business. The old accreditation process.
So the tackling circuits look like they have finished up. The Cowboys are massing at the center of the field, and we're going to get our field goal kicking competition underway as the kickers will go down to the south end and put their toe into the leather. And, you know, 4 kickers out there to kick. Matthew Scott is one of them. Matthew, a guy who handled kickoffs last year for the Salinas Cowboys, and a guy who will, I'm sure, handle a big part of those kicking duties. But again, with Chance, with Chance Williams, who coaches special teams and the kickers, they really won't hesitate to rotate a few kickers in, kind of feeling like, hey, if everybody's getting their shots, then that's a good thing for everybody. As they'll move down to the south end of the pit. Looks like they're going to put that tee right at the 20-yard line. So plus the end zone, that is a 30-yard field goal. Of course, no rush, no holder. They'll use the manual holder there and put that thing in the air. Of course, Dave, you're always looking for that big hubcap that they used to, the hubcap-looking tee they used to put that ball in. They get it about 6 inches up in the air. Now you don't have nearly the same advantage.
I could really boot that ball back in the. They had that thing so high up in the air, it was hard to miss it. And, of course, it's really hard to kick an onside kick with that thing. Unfortunately, we didn't try that many times. But one of the biggest disappointments I had in high school, I was the actual extra point kicker, but we never tried one field goal. And there was a reason for that.
So the team is making some noise, putting a little pressure on the kicker. We got a great shot from right behind the kicker. Hopefully
it was good.
Ball is in the air and splits the uprights. It is good. Next kicker up for the Cowboys. There's a shot. That one's good. Reining them in there.
Yeah, I was watching these guys the other day. They can really boot it.
What a luxury. Going to work from the right hash. Right-footed kicker. That's a little bit of a push and a nice one. There's our first miss of the night. The guys that are standing there heckling better be careful. They catch that low kick.
Exactly. Take one of the chops.
So once we go final with the kicking challenge, Coach Zink's going to talk to everybody. And one of the things that I think is probably the neatest part about being a Salinas Cowboy is when you go final, win, lose, or draw, Coach Zink invites the families down on the field, and you get a few pictures taken and just enjoy being a Salinas Cowboy. And as Coach Zink says, as hard as the kids work, I don't care whether we win or we lose at the end of a hard week of work. We're going to talk as a team, and then this is about family. I want family down on the field. You can take pictures. You can have your little brother run around, but we're going to celebrate being high school football players at Salinas High, win, lose, or draw, and that's a really cool commitment by a head coach.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's hugely important. It's obviously it's about winning so much when you get into the college level and you talk and you watch sports on television. it's all about winning, and the winning team is the greatest team, and the losing team is the, they say, oh, well, look at you lost, and how's that feel, and all this. But it's so much focus on winning. And in high school, I think the focus should be on playing. And we've seen that many times over the years as, you remember these games, win or lose or draw, like you said, for the rest of your life. These kids are going to be your friends probably for the rest of your life. Some of them are anyway, as I have witnessed over the years. And you remember the losses, you really do. And but you do remember the fun wins and the crazy things that happen in sports, in basketball or baseball or soccer or wherever. But it always revolves around your friends. And to this day, I remember some of the crazy things that happened, even more so in high school than in college, because college just goes by so quickly. And most of these kids that in high school you actually grew up with. So some great camaraderie, some great friendships on the football field, on all the sports teams, on the cheer teams, on the band. It's just such a great atmosphere to be in. And like you were talking about earlier, in academics, the kids that do well in academics usually do well in sports.
Well, they're going to back that tee all the way back to the 25-yard line, so a 35-yard kick. That ball's going to hook to the left, but had plenty of toe, that is for sure.
Yeah, I like the way they're crowding them. They're kind of pressuring them. It's interesting.
Well, and think of that, right? You've got a high school team. You've got kickers that are dedicated exclusively to kicking. They're getting some time here to do what they practice literally every practice with a crowd. That ball up and good.
Now you got now you're having some fun. You got some guys doing the piggybacks and on the shoulders. And oh my goodness,
man, that is a howitzer shot there that will go to the top of the bleachers.
That one. That was a strong leg there.
Well, again, it's been a pleasure having you tonight. Friday Night Lights, the finish of spring football for the Salinas Cowboys. Cowboys will get underway with the Jamboree in August, and we'll have all the action for you on Power Talk 1460. It'll be year 12 for you and I, Dave. As the kick is up and going to sneak right over the crossbar there as they move that tee further and further back.
The one kid's getting some great height out there. He's really getting that ball up in the air, and that's what you want as a kicker or extra point specialist. You want to get that ball up in the air quick so it doesn't get blocked. That was another bullet.
And remind everybody, SHS Cowboy Radio, all one word. That's our YouTube channel and also our Twitter handle at SHS Cowboy Radio. Excited to bring you Cowboy football again this fall as Steve Zink heads into year 2 as the head coach of the Salinas Cowboys. It'll be his 9th year as a head coach. Some news the other day, got to confirm it. Coach Goodbody, from what I understand, is coaching some JV football. So we'll have to check in with Coach Goodbody this fall via text message, and we'll have to check on his scores every Friday night and see if Goodbody is still holding that same standard that he had when he was the head coach of the Salinas Cowboys. Plenty of leg going to bend to the left there and be no good.
Where's he at?
He's in Colorado.
Colorado, okay.
He's in Colorado, so again, Steve Goodbody, a guy that took this program over when there were a lot of things going on, to make the understatement a nice kick straight down the middle, and really turn things around and set the table, and Coach Zink able to grab the baton and keep running in the right direction and bringing the good things here. And also this fall, it'll be fun to see. Cowboys had the blackout uniforms last year, matte black helmet, black jersey, black pants, black socks, the whole deal. From what I understand, don't want to give away anything, but from what I understand, Coach Zink with a alternative uniform up his sleeve, if you will. And if you're an old-time Cowboy fan, from what I understand, you're really going to like that uniform. So it will be fun to see what they come up with there. That kick will be just short of the crossbar.
Kids having fun right now, harassing the kickers. That's They're obviously winding down from a tough practice in the end of the spring.
Well, and how would you grade the first Friday Night Lights of Monterey County football history? I'd give this thing an A+. Lots of fun to see the 7-on-7s, the 1-on-1s, and to see all the Cowboys and the parents turn out and have some fun.
I'm going to save my vote till I try the taco truck.
Try the taco. We just got to make sure that they aren't they haven't pulled out of here by the time we finish up.
Exactly. Well, I heard from reliable sources that it's a pretty good deal, so let's hope they don't.
Anytime you have Tom or John Bramers endorsing a food source, you know that it's good. Well,
you got to jump on it.
As the Cowboys finish up the kicking, they're going to finish that up, and then they're going to get together with Coach Zink and talk about what needs to happen over the next couple weeks as they finish up school here with finals next week, get graduation under their belt, and want to wish the seniors the best, the guys that were on that 2017 football team, CCS champ, Monterey Bailey, Gablin Division champ. Want to thank them for their great efforts. And guys like Brett Reed and Richie Serta and Hunter Mason, all those guys, and wish them the best in graduation and wish them a lot of success, whatever they decide to do next year, whether it's school or work or school and sports, whatever it is.
Well, I've heard a couple of them going on to Hartnell.
Right.
Junior college, playing some football over there, and that's a good school as well. And the main thing is to keep getting better. You're going to be a Cowboy for the rest of your life. You might as well just keep getting better. And that's an up-and-coming program. Obviously, Monterey Peninsula Community College is another fine program over there with Coach Rasmussen. And there's a lot of places, a lot of opportunities to keep playing football if it's in your blood. And obviously, Kevin and I have had football in our blood since we were, young children, and we kept it going on through college. But not everybody's like that. A lot of people, when they get done with high school football, they're done. They've had enough. They just want to get their education, be a lawyer, be a doctor, be a nurse, be whatever. But on the Central Coast, we have some great opportunities to keep your football dreams alive. And they're very good coaches and very good programs.
Well, again, our best to those 2018 graduates, all part of the 2017 Monterey Bailey Gablin Division champs and Central Coast section champs. And again, the first team from Salinas High to get into those state playoffs. So all the best to that group of kids, and all the best to this group of kids as they get ready for the 2018 season. Also want to thank the First Lady of Cowboy Football, Stephanie Zink, for all of the great work that she does. Just a reliable source that gets a lot of things done behind the scenes. And again, thanks to Coach Zink and his staff of coaches for going the extra mile and being prepared and being ready to go. And they show up for practice. They're dressed in uniforms just like the players are dressed in uniforms.
Well, not only that, but Coach Zink, from top to bottom, he's allowing us to have access as well for the media coverage, which I'm not saying every coach would. I mean, a lot of coaches are a little apprehensive of media coverage, and like our group here, we've been doing this for a long time, but that doesn't mean they're going to let us into their world as Coach Zink has, and that's kind of fun too. And I think that's a bonus that comes along with his whole attitude.
Well, it really is. And if you think about tonight, I'm sure there's some coaches, high school coaches, going, "You're going to broadcast your practice?" Yeah. And as Coach Zink says, "Look, man, it's blocking and tackling. We got nothing to hide. Come on down, take a look, jump on YouTube, check it out, and we'll line it up in the fall and get after it. You can watch all the film you want. And by the way, with Huddle, it doesn't really matter because everybody's got film on everybody. So unless you're calling the play in the Huddle, all of that is really something that doesn't matter much. There's one of our favorites, Matthew Scott, teeing it up from the 30-yard line, a 40-yard kick. Puts his toe into the leather, the high spinner, guts it right down the middle. It is good as they'll back it up again. So, again, thanks to Coach Zink and all he's done here for Salinas High. And, you were talking about that saying on the back of the T-shirt. And, of course, Dave, you come down here the other day. I mean, you show up for one spring practice, and you walk away with a pullover from me and a pullover from Coach Zink. You expanded your wardrobe, but again, Coach Zink hooking us up with the cool gold Adidas pullover. Pretty neat stuff.
Well, I'm kind of looking like a coach here with all of my swag on. I've been asked a couple times. They say, "What are you, coach of their Salinas Cowboys?" And I say, "No, we're just the broadcast crew, and they're taking care of us. They want us happy up there. They want us, good vibes and all that stuff. So that's a good thing. Top to bottom, we're having fun up here."
And we'll get another kicker set to go here. Looks like Farfan. He's got that ball teed up on what looks to be the 33-yard line. This will be a 43-yarder. A low wobbler. He'll shank it off to the left side. Looks like kind of a bad day at the golf course for Dave Waite there. Ooh. When you kind of get that hook in there.
Well, we saw
Matt
that
Scott's
today.
going to tee it up. Same place, 33-yard line. We'll call it 43 if it's good. No snapper, no holder. Kick is away, and boy, a chip shot, plenty of leg. So he'll back it up again. I was going to take us out, but, we're going to go ahead and watch these kickers till they get to the edge of the envelope, if you will.
Yeah, that was a pretty good boot there.
Again, great effort by everybody tonight. Want to thank Principal Libby Duthman at Salinas High School, one of the best, top-notch administrators in Monterey County, and the great work she does on behalf of the athletic programs. Patty Lamar, always like Patty. She always checks on us and says, "You guys have enough chairs." I can't even tell you how special that is as a broadcaster to have a place to sit. And
well, we've been lugging chairs all over the Tri-County area for, 12 years now?
So thanks to Patty, Hugo Marascal, and all the work he does. Here we go. Matthew Scott again. He's going to push that one over to the right side. So Cowboys literally cleaning up the field here. Got the jerseys off. Got that spirit pack on. The back of the shirt says Cowboys get better every day. As a broadcast crew, we're trying to do the same. Well, want to thank you for tuning in tonight. Friday Night Lights from the pit at Salinas High School. Hope you enjoyed it. Take a look on YouTube. It'll be there for replay as soon as we go final. So after the first Friday Night Lights in Central Coast section here history. This is Kevin Richardson on behalf of my broadcast partner Dave Waite. Our camera people doing the real hard work tonight. Mark Bonus, Lawrence Zink, and Teresa Richardson. On behalf of the all-volunteer broadcast crew, we want to say so long from the pit at Salinas High School. We'll talk to you in August when the Cowboys kick things off on August 17th at the City Jamboree. So long from the pit.